Hello and welcome to my video demonstration for the task 6.2c. First, I will demonstrate the server side of the code. In the first line, I have imported a socket module which has the functions for the socket programming. And then I have defined a sample DNS database dictionary in which I have mapped the hostname to the IP address. And then I have created a UDP socket for DNS communication in which I have used the socket method, and the line AF underscore INET specifies the IPv4 IP address family, and sock underscore dgram specifies the socket type, that is UDP. And then I have set up the server address and the port. And in the next line, using the bind method, I have bind the socket to this address. And then I have printed the message which displays that the DNS server is running on the specified DNS address. And then I have defined a function which is named DNS query handler, which takes a query as an input and then it returns a response based on the DNS database. And then I have declared an if statement which checks that if the query matches the DNS database. And then another else if statement in which it checks if the query matches a value in the DNS database, indicating a reverse IP address to hostname lookup. And then a for loop in which if the value matches the query, then we return the key, or otherwise we return the message saying not found. Then we have entered an infinite loop to continuously listen for the DNS queries and have printed the message waiting for a DNS query. And then when we receive a DNS query and the client's address from the socket, the buffer size is set to 1024 bytes. And then we have decoded the received query from bytes to a string and then removed any leading or trailing white spaces. And we have also printed the received DNS query to the client from the client's address in the form of a message. And then we have called another function called DNS query handler in which to process the received query and then generate a response. And in the next line, we have sent the response back to the client. And now I will explain the client side of the code, in which the first step remains the same, in which we have imported the socket module just like in the server side. And then we have created a UDP socket again for DNS communication using the socket module. And then we have set the server's IP address to which the queries will be sent. And then we have entered an infinite loop in which we have prompted the user to enter the host name or type exit to exit the program. And then we have implied an if statement to check if the user has entered exit, and if it has entered the exit, then we break the loop. The next line sends the DNS query to the entered by the user to the server using the send to method, and then the query is encoded into bytes by using the encode method before sending it to the server. And then next line, response comma server equals to client. This line receives the DNS response from the server using the method receive from, and then it returns a tuple containing the response data and the address of the server. Then the next line decodes the received response from bytes into a string using the decode method. And then we have printed the DNS response message. So now I will demonstrate the working of my program.